All right, so we're talking about chapter 2, and End of Your World by Adeshanti. And so we've already sort of dug into it a little bit. Um, like Rave, you were talking about how it doesn't really, I mean, and it's sort of what the book chimes in with a lot. It's like you don't really have to have this full-blown permanent awakening experience to experience, all that it has to offer, which kind of makes sense, right? I've had a thought where it's like if you were to experience infinity, even if it was like for a brief moment, you've experienced all of it, right? Like because it's infinity. So I'd imagining like awakening experience would be something similar to that.
Hmm.
I like that it was talking about the uh the belief or like the connotation with bliss and awakening and how it's not always the case that it's like this happy monumentous moment. And it
Yeah,
made me start to think back of like when do I feel like my first awakening was, because he starts talking about his in the book and like how long it was in that honeymoon period.
I love that he calls it a honeymoon.
Honeymoon.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But I actually was talking with Rave last night that if you describe it as not being like a blissful moment, but more of like this realization or like waking up to the world a little bit, I feel
Hmm.
like mine was more of like a negative experience than when I felt like I started like having all these questions and then realizing like that some things just really didn't matter and then it turned into panic, which is like a really interesting thing because when I started on the journey, you think like it's going to be this really happy, momentous, like that letting go part, and then to think that, all those questions could really like scare you because it's completely opposite of everything that you've been taught your entire life. So it's like, wait a second. What do you mean? So I thought that was an interesting part, just like coming at it from it might not always be this like happy, carefree feeling. It could be just a scary thing to wake up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and mm,
go ahead.
yeah. No, I wanted to ask more like scary, right? What about it is actually like scary? Is it like the dissolving of the ego part? Because I've seen it described in a scary sense. Not scary sense. It's more like the truth is not pretty kind of sense. The vibe, at least.
What I think is scary is like all the stuff that your entire life you've sort of leaned on for safety and security. You start to see like how transparent and weak it
Mm-hmm.
is and how it should be let go.
Hmm.
And that's like a disorienting feeling, especially before, like he talks about when it comes online, like what replaces that, the sense of faith, so. I think what he's pointing to is what's called in some like more Catholic traditions, maybe the dark night of the soul, where you have this death of who you thought you were, but you haven't yet emerged into anything really. It's
Mm-hmm.
just darkness.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's
Do you guys feel,
relatable.
is it because part of awakening itself is something I was contemplating? I was thinking, like, what everyone is really saying, like, for you to identify with awareness, you almost have to let go of uh, mm, any sort of like approval from like outside world, like whatever outside world is giving, like when you eat, you feel good, when when someone compliments you and stuff like that. If you just give all that to yourself, I feel awareness has that kind of property to itself, which it's giving to itself what we normally expect from the world. But when you're giving to itself, then what you're gonna do with the world, kind of thing. You feel like that is kind of connected to this scary part, or you know,
I think a lot of this um, sort of involves like how much someone has really invested in a certain identity. So like I mean, he's mentioned before, this sort of experience is different for everybody, and I think, I mean, I've met people who uh just a vast amount of people who vary in the amount they invest in their ego as like who they are, and I think wherever you fall on that, when you have like that first sort of awakening experience, it kind of like sets up what the after is going to be. uh I know, like, I had an experience where, I mean, I was pretty invested in like in my ego because I thought that really was all there was, right? And so there, I mean, it was similar to what I had shared a few weeks back, where um, I kind of realized I couldn't convince anyone of anything. Like being someone who like put a lot of like value in being able to like create an argument and debate it and logic it out, and then sort of having a realization that like it doesn't really matter because I can't really convince anybody who doesn't want to be convinced, who's not open. So the power is really within them and not my ability to be awesome. And so that was a hard realization. And so I feel like there must be something similar with having a similar investment in like an ego or some other rock, and then having that taken away, or just sort of like slowly easing away from that with awakening.
I know, like my question itself is the nature of awakening. It, like what part of it is like kind of like scare, not scary, like suffering kind of part is realizing that, oh my god, I've been living like the shitty life in the past, and right now, and you just realize that, oh my god, the way I was living all my life is actually fucked up, you know. And that, I think that's like a mm, no, it's like not I won't call it scary, it's more like shattering, you know, earth shattering experience or something like that.
Yeah.
uh, and there's also another part where you like awaken to the truth, and the truth itself is kind of something that you didn't expect. You wanted something, but you have this. I don't know which part of that is scary. Is the fact that the past is the way you lived up to it, the way you identify it is kind of like fucked up. I feel for me that's the part that I think it
I
gets
think
into.
there's layers to it, right? There's all different types of emotions and things that come out. So I think like the sort of angst about the past, like you're talking about. I mean, if you have a full realization, I mean, as far as I can tell, you sort of realize that the past are just memories, right? And that
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
they exist in the
Yeah.
present, and there's nothing you can do about them because it's just there here now. But you know, the partial realization of like, oh my God, like I've been acting from my ego for so long, like I've hurt so many people, and you're still sort of caught in it. That can be, yeah, very stressful. And then, yeah, I think it's the fear of like letting go of things that you felt safe with. Sort of to get at what you brought up earlier, of I guess the seeking validation to that end a bit. I I feel like once you start to see more clearly the forces of ego and how it moves and become more aware of it, then like in situations, right, where you're interacting with people, you can really see like more clearly what's a selfish desire, what's a selfish fear, and you can try to put those things aside and come with a stronger intention of like, how can I just help people or whatever, you know? So it's like if I'm rooted strongly in my intention to help other people, then like sort of regardless of how they act, I can sort of be confident that like I did the best I could, you know, and I'm not looking to them as much to reaffirm like I did a good job. I did a good job. And you obviously
Yeah.
want to be sensitive, you want to cause more harm and be sensitive to people's reaction in that way.
Yeah.
But in terms of like somebody coming at you and being like, you're so selfish, well, I can't believe you did that, if you're really rooted in being trying to help, then maybe, you know, you look at your behavior in a different way, but you don't have to beat yourself up or question yourself or all that kind of stuff
Yeah.
as much.
That's true.
A lot of this is clinging. It sounds like just all the trouble that comes afterwards. Just like trying
Yeah.
to remain hanging on to certain things.
Yeah, I think like a lot of the fear comes from that illusion of control over things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
And then
wow.
you're
Yeah.
realizing, okay, like I don't really actually have any control over anything.
Yeah.
So
Illusion of
that can
control.
be a scary thing because I think it's like in our nature sometimes to try to just regain control or, make sense of things. So when stuff starts not making so much sense, then it gets really scary.
Yeah.
I've heard it described as like awakening is the ego's biggest disappointment,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
the the ego will put, its last ditch effort is to disguise itself as spiritual ego and get all self-righteous and try to
Yeah.
like reestablish a foothold. Um, and that guy Jim Newman, who I talked about a while ago now, but
Uh-huh.
who I think is pretty close to being enlightened, he always says things like, "There's no individual who wants this. Like maybe they think they do, but they actually don't, because it's sort of like the death of the individual, you know."
And there's a lot of fun that comes from just being an individual. Like there's a lot of stuff that comes uh that are good things. I mean, often like in this conversation, there's sort of like we want to like exile the ego. But there's
Yeah.
also some things I think we could find we really like about having an ego.
Yeah.
Yeah, like chasing passions can be really fun.
Hmm.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
mean, just interacting with people and being yourself, like being who you are. I mean, if you're like nobody, I mean, that's a great experience too, but I mean, it's hard to like, really get. I think passion's a really good word for this. It's really hard to become super passionate about certain things by losing that piece, right? Like, because
Yeah.
passion's usually like filled with like must and excitement and has to happen or this would be awesome or something like that.
Yeah, I feel that too. I feel like
Mhm.
the best balance is that you're attached to stuff that you know you can detach yourself to. You know what I mean? You can be attached. Like, like, like this call, I mean, I love having this calls, but let's say something happened and everyone just disappears, right? It just be like good memories, but I'm not attached to like, I won't like start suffering. You know what I mean? And I feel like that sort of like tasteful balance, I think I need it for every aspect of my life. But I'm like kind of attached in a detached way. It's like hold on tightly, let go lightly. Uh, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, the pleasure seeking. I've found that one personally to be a very tough one to bring mindfulness to because it's just so nice to have pleasure, like
Hmm.
doing something that makes you feel good. I like that.
Yeah, and the
And
pleasure
it's
doesn't
not saying
happen
you
in this
shouldn't do
moment.
it, but
That's it. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
yeah, it's just in order to see it clearly, you have to be outside of the desire to do it. And that's just the desire is so seductive sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, but this is, I guess, Ram Dass's interpretation of Tao Te Ching is that truth waits for eyes unclouded by desire. And,
Nice.
as long as you're pushing and pulling, you're not seeing clearly.
I think about that. I feel like the pleasure is so crazy to even get awareness of. First of all, the ego has self-deception mechanisms, yeah, and you are never aware of the pleasure that, like, for example, you're getting pleasure in this moment, but in a mind thinks you're getting pleasure when you get the outcome. For example, like when you're gambling, you think that you would get pleasure when you win the jackpot, yeah, but you're actually getting pleasure in the anticipation of getting the jackpot. The jackpot itself doesn't have that much pleasure to it. It's the anticipation of it that's addictive, right? Uh, but no one. It's very hard to become aware of the anticipation because it's not logical. It's not logical that me waiting for something would get me like pleasure, or even just having an expectation or an expectation for a certain outcome would also like get me some sort of pleasure. It's not very obvious to like shine awareness on that because yeah, I don't know, it's very hard to like shine awareness on that, which is it's a good point. because it's like it's happening in this moment, but it's not. But it also feels like it's not happening in this moment as well. So it's like, okay, in this moment, what do I actually be aware of? Yeah, the pleasure is hard.
Expectations.
Yeah, I think expectations is a huge word, and that's I'm reading another book right now. You guys, maybe you know this guy Krishnamurti. He's like kind of a
Yep.
big,
Oh,
I don't know,
hey,
he comes
yo,
from India,
yeah, I've
and
listened
I've
to his
just
work.
found the material great. Yeah, I think he's great so far, and he really
Mhm.
comes hard at like, don't listen to any traditions, just experience it yourself, which I really like. But
Did you
I
read the
just
book
read one of
called
his
Freedom to
chapters
something?
on
Freedom to.
freedom from the zone is what I'm reading.
Oh yeah, I read that
So
book. Yeah.
so far, really good. And one of the chapters talks about pleasure directly, and he sort of defines pleasure and joy differently, but the core idea is that as long as you're hanging on to expectations or ideas about the pleasure in the past, like you're killing it. You're killing it. You're strangling it. You're suffocating it, and you're actually suffering because if you wanted to keep it going and hold on to it, you're squeezing the butterfly and killing it instead of just
Uh,
holding it and
yeah.
appreciating it while it's there.
Hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with experiencing the joy, but it's sort of like the William Blake poem that like binding yourself to a joy does the winged life destroy, but what's the rest of it? Kissing the joy as it flies, you live in eternity's sunrise, right? Just let it come and go.
Oh, you know what's also crazy about this pleasure stuff? I feel like the pleasure that you get from like ego has definitely a different flavor compared to like, the pleasure when you get in the moment and stuff like when you're in flow, you're in moment and stuff like that. There's definitely like a different flavor to it. Uh, yeah, I don't know how to put it. Like hunger, even hunger versus something that you experience when you're meditating. There's like a different flavor to like the satisfaction you get, which is also
Yeah, I've
interesting.
experienced that too, and I think for me at least it manifests more as like yes, this is good. How can I get more of it? How can I keep it? So like exploring Colorado is beautiful and great, and then the mind is like, oh, maybe I should move out here so I can get this all the time, like more and more and more.
Yeah,
And I think that's absolutely the ego coming in.
yeah. And it's a good point you bring up, Dave, because I feel like it keeps switching, between like the pleasure mm, that you're getting from like the meditative experience when you're like awe and beauty, right? I feel that's like a meditative experience too. Like, oh, sunset comes for like split second, you're just awed, like, oh my god, it's beautiful. But then the ego kicks in and like mixes in its cocktail of emotions. It's like, yeah, you know what? I need to like move here, come here often, stuff like this. Yeah, because it's so subtle, right? It's crazy.
It is very subtle.
Starts happening before you even realize it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once you realize it's too late.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just pack it up and go home now.
Well, I mean, there's still so much value in realizing it because you can just say, like, oh, those are just thoughts. And they're happening right now, too. And then you come back and say, wow, the sunrise is beautiful. And then you're just back there. But it's a totally different world than if you're lost in, like, oh, maybe I should look at this. I don't know, like, how can I make the most of this? How can I build a house here?
Well, that's the
Yeah.
difference now. So now we can look at it and kind of laugh about it to see how you go like 0 to 100 so
Yeah.
quickly.
I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
Give it.
Yeah, and I think I want to actually highlight this concept. Like let's say you saw the sunset, and like you're thinking, oh, I have to build a house here and stuff like that. Yeah. What I realized about myself, I'm like caught up in the movies, but I'm never aware of the tone of the thought, right? Like the emotional tone of the movies. You know how in like movies you're just caught up in the story, but there's like underlying emotions that the director wants you to feel and tries to like express, but you cannot like feel it indirectly. I In my movies, I'm never aware of like the tone of the movies that play in my head, and I feel sometimes the tone is like it's also a pleasure, right? It's a weird sort of like indirect pleasure that I get. Like even the thoughts, I never like was aware of the tone of the thoughts I'm thinking. Oh, I feel the tone is like a frustrated voice, right? Not just like a robot voice that's saying the thought. Like, I feel that's also very interesting. What do you guys think of that? Because I'm trying to like connect all to end of the day. If you're getting the pleasure, you're getting it in this moment, in this now. I- If you can catch it sometime, it would be now. So only time you can catch this sort of stuff. So I'm like trying to think, okay, how can I shift my awareness to stuff in this moment? Because if I'm feeling good in this moment, like how do I become aware of it? Like the ego pleasure.
I think like the way you're going about it is like somewhat of a it's like a good path. I kind of thought when you were talking about it, I was thinking um like there's awareness of the thought and then there's the awareness that you're not the thought. And then the hard part is we usually think about that like if you're suffering and you feel sad or you feel in pain, like having that remembering, oh, I am not this, I am not
Yeah,
these thoughts, they are just thoughts. But the challenge, really, the hidden challenge, or at least to me it seems hidden, is that you also have to do that when you feel really good.
yes.
It's like when
Mhm.
you're
Oh my
having a
god.
really good time, when you're like super happy and you're like just having the like rave when you're out there seeing the beautiful mountains, you're like, "Oh, this is amazing." You have to also have that experience of like I am not amazing. I'm not
Yeah,
like
and
feeling,
let go of
you
that
know,
amazing experience. Yeah.
and that's the harder part. It's very easy to, because like you start to realize you're using it as an escape from bad, and and it's nowhere.
Yeah.
It's not to be found at all when you're experiencing good things, and I think that's part of it. Is a completely agnostic approach to like no matter what the experience is, good or bad, that is the underlying truth. And it's completely hidden when we're having great experiences, understandably, but it is just completely buried.
I think, do you feel like that's a very good point? Do you feel like this entire quest of spirituality itself is like, how do I put it? It's like you're trying to like reach this bliss state. So anytime you do get it, your ego says, you know what? Yeah, this is it. Good enough. I feel like because let's say I'm appreciating a sunset, right? Or like Colorado or whatever. I think you have to like let
Mhm.
go of that as well because you are accepting something that is not from you. You know, it's not like you giving that to yourself. You're giving your power to something else outside of you that is like giving you this pleasurable experience. I feel like as long as that is there, you can't actually become fully aware because you're creating like a duality, right? So that's what I was realizing too. It's crazy. What do you think of that, Ray? Nina?
Well, yeah, the duality. I mean, if you think it's outside, it's like it's all outside of you. Even your reactions are just things happening. So it's either all outside of you or it all is
All is
you.
that. Mm.
But it's all coming and going. Um, yeah, I mean, the Buddhist lens on this is like what you're. I mean, you said the word tone. They call it feeling tone. Is my experience positive, negative, or neutral, pleasant, neutral, or unpleasant? And in the practice, really, with that is like, thoughts are running all the time, but can you pause and go to the feeling tone underneath the thoughts?
Yeah.
And so it can be maybe a little easier with negative, right? And especially in my experience of like, all these thoughts are happening. Wait, like what's actually going on right now that's unpleasant? And with physical pain, it's actually, I think, easier because it's like, oh, my stomach feels this way. I don't like that. That's unpleasant. And then the next question is like, what's my relationship to that? Can I be with the unpleasant? And then you can often build up the tolerance to say yes. And that opens up a whole world of space. But much more difficult to do when it's like the stories themselves that I think are causing the unpleasantness. When you're attached to an expectation, that expectation doesn't unfold, and now there's super conflict. And so it's like that mental activity itself is unpleasant. And maybe it's manifesting in your body as well, but bringing the question of can I be with that activity, it's because thoughts tend to suck us in and it feels like that's us fighting ourselves.
It's like glass cracking.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah, same things play out when something's pleasant. How is this? Oh, it's pleasant. What's my relationship to it? Do I want more? Am I trying to hold on to it, or am I totally equanimous is the word they like to use, like equanimity, total balance and stability. Like, can I be at peace with this being here now and not being here later? Not attached.
Yeah, I like that word. You know what doesn't make sense to me? It's just the fact that a human would even try to like mm, go this route, you know, because it just doesn't make sense. Like about oh, you're trying to like let go of a desire, which is a desire. But what makes a person have this desire like this in the first place? You know, because it doesn't make any sense as to like why a person would have like a I mean, I have it, and my personal reason was, oh, this is like escapist suffering. You know what I mean? So if I'm suffering, I can just use these techniques or whatever concepts to like free myself or whatever from the suffering. That's my desire. But but I don't get like like what for others, like how, how would like a person end up with a desire to let go of all their desires, or and even to the extent where they let go of themselves and this desire also. You know what I mean? It's just a weird path.
I thought one of the last lines of the chapter was pretty relevant to what we're kind of circling here. He said, like the first bit of the last paragraph says, what's important is to simply allow the process of egoic dissolution to occur. So it kind of just resonates a lot of what we picked up in Taoism, like with Wu Wei and everything, is just allowing something to happen. It's not doesn't really take anything effort on our end. There's really nothing we can do, but just let it happen. Once we have an agenda, it starts to get really complicated.
Yeah, that's true. Once you take try to get enlightened in like in like yeah that like six-pack shortcuts. Get enlightened in a weekend workshop. You know.
Workshop. Uh, I think that's an interesting question, though, right? Is like
Yeah,
it's coming. It has to come from outside of our ego. This desire to like
you
really
feel
see the
so?
truth, because the ego doesn't want it, maybe it starts with ego, but then at some point the ego would be like, oh shit, shut this down. This isn't what I want. The way he describes it at some point, I don't remember where, but it's just like this really over or underlying feeling of like wanting to see things clearly. And in a more cosmic sense, you can maybe frame that as like the universe's inherent inertia to like rediscover its true nature, right? In a Hindu sense, the one becomes the many and then plays the game to try to rediscover the one. And so, whatever you're feeling to have the awakening is just that inherent desire to come back to the true state.
What is pleasure exactly? So when a person, at least I've seen it described sometimes, when the person experiences like pleasure, I feel it is like it's still like at that moment you like feel one, one with everything almost for like a very very split second. Oh, now I don't need anything. All the thoughts stop. You feel good. Uh, yeah, but you feel. I don't know exactly too. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. A desire outside us, outside the ego. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like you said, Rave, you said it comes from like outside, right? And like, cause like, part of like you're just saying that is like the ego doesn't want to like, I guess like just be let go of and or forgotten, or it's very heavily invested in being around and being in control. Um, so a lot of like what I take away from like Watson Doss is like what we're trying to get at is already there. So there's actually
Yeah,
nowhere it doesn't come from, or at least my understanding was what they're saying. It doesn't come from anywhere. It's already there. It's just more of like when we use what you talked about with Ram Dass, like with eyes being unclouded. Um, there's really nothing that you do for something to be unclouded. It's just like murky water. It's just kind of like sits still. It's almost as if like the ego is like a big old cloud, and our emphasis in so many different ways just builds it up. So it's like the lack of just the absence of like I guess investment, which can come from many different activities, um, and even ironically, like trying to approach spirituality to get something
yeah,
just adds to the cloud. Um, but really, it'll naturally dissipate, which I think meditation sort of gets us to, right? It's just when we're trying to do we don't view like walking around and cooking dinner and working our job as meditation. We view sitting, or doing something peaceful as meditation. But that's just a mindset. Like you could really put yourself in the meditation like state of mind doing anything. I mean, that's sort
yeah.
of like what Zen talks about.
Even gratitude is a form of meditation. I like what they said in the book, where it's not like that you wake up to the awareness. It's like the awareness is there, and the awareness awakens from the ego. Because it's like the way I see it is like uh, I feel like when a movie is like projected on the screen, like on the theater wall. Yeah, I feel like the movie that's playing is the ego. The wall that's the movie's on is the awareness. Yeah. So see, I feel like what he's saying is rather than becoming aware of the movie that's playing, you need to become aware of the wall. The awareness as that the movie's on. And
Yeah, that's a common metaphor. I'm not sure if you're aware of that or you just generated it independently.
no,
Um,
I think I heard this. I heard this metaphor like in a different setting though. I don't think. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's a real good one.
it's a good one. Yeah,
Like it's like the characters in the movie are all the people in the world, and so you're just playing out the drama, right?
yeah,
But it's all just light on a screen. But like us trying to find awakening is like a character trying to realize that he's light on a screen. All he sees is the world he's in. So it's not possible. But if
I
you
feel
realize
like the
that really
character
you are
needs to
just
realize that he is the screen, is what I'm getting at.
yeah, it's you are the screen and like the light is God, right? The light is what creates all the stuff. But it's just creating on the canvas which you are and you share that identity with
Yeah,
everything that you think your world is.
Mm.
yeah, definitely.
Rupert Spira, The Nature
Yeah,
of Confidence, Nature of Consciousness. He really hones in on that one in a beautiful way. A lot of like it's essay form.
Spiro. Yeah, damn. So you feel like the desire. So the feel like desire comes from outside us. It feels like okay, this is a desire of the screen rather than the movie. So the movie has a desire, but then the screen takes over. And
Well, the individual in the movie has desires. Um, and it's all just like that self-centered drama. That's a term that Ram Dass likes to use, right?
yeah, it's a good term.
Um, and when you're enveloped in the movie, you take on those emotions. They feel real. They feel like your whole world. But when the movie ends, it's like, oh, here we are. And that's like being the screen.
Yeah, almost it feels like the game of the game is to get out of the game. But once you're out of the game, it's like, gotta get back in the game again. I think Alan Watts talks about that, right? It's like everyone has let's say you have a dream that you keep dreaming. Then you'd want like a dream where, yeah, what is it? You'd want to like keep dreaming a dream. You would ask the God, oh, you know everything. You have total control over the dream, but that's boring, right? Then you tell the God, hey, I don't want this dream. I don't want control over the dream. I want to dream a dream where I have no control over. And now that's exciting. But you're actually like safe, But it doesn't feel that way. It's a dream you would ask the God, and here we are.
Yeah, I
And
like.
I think that's what this book.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say quickly. That's what this book is about, right? You realize it's a movie. Okay, now what? Now you got to go back into the movie. How do you do that?
Yeah, and still living true to the experiences you had. You cannot deny that because that'll create like a inner dissonance. What are you saying, Boots?
I was going to mention. I like the whole dream metaphor, sort of like what Watts talks about. He puts it in another way once, like being a sultan in a palace and like having like all these buttons that like you can
Yeah,
press to give you certain experiences, and he calls it the push button place. And then eventually you find a button that's just labeled surprise, and you hit that button, and you're in the present moment. And I like that because
yeah,
it's sort of it kind of like puts things in a different perspective where it's like, well, we put a lot of effort in like being enlightened, being awakened, but it's almost as if we forgot like we're the ones who put ourselves up to this. Like it's if it's really if we take the perspective like everything is one big thing and we're all a part of it, like equal parts of it. Trying to escape it is the actual insanity because you're the one who put it all together. It's like building. I don't know. My first little thought is like you build like this big Lego model and then you just start questioning why it was built and all that, and you're like, what do you mean you built it? Like that's what you wanted to do.
yeah. That's why I feel like the game is almost as if not to let go of everything, but it's almost like uh, you let go of certain things at certain time, and that enhances your experience rather than I don't know. That's what it feels like because
I think
because
it's like just to remember it's a game. Like
yeah,
everything, it is a game. Like this
yeah,
is not in a non-important way. Just like it's a game. We're playing.
yeah.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah. Also, I feel like I don't want to feel powerless. So I feel this is almost
Hmm.
like an escape mechanism as well. Okay, how do I not feel powerless when suffering hits or something like that? It's supposed to help me with that, right? I feel that's how most people get into spirituality in the first place, right? They're going through hell and like hits and they show him a different kind of hell, and then they awaken.
And it's just crazy. When you hone in on it, you see so clearly that suffering is just mismatching your ideas of what should be versus what is.
Yeah,
And like seeing that over and over and over. And
yeah,
then, so like I had a borderline spiritual experience on the way out here because it was a nightmare. She lives out in like the western part of Colorado, and it's a small airport, hard to get to. And so I was flying from like 5 in the morning till midnight, connecting flights and stuff. And so like
damn, like
plenty
5
of
a.m. to like midnight. I mean,
yeah, like all day. I had to sit in an airport for like 6 hours probably. Um,
wow.
and so you just watch your body kind of fall apart in ways that are unpleasant. Like I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm uncomfortable, but like that's actually just my body. That's a state of what's going on. And as long as I'm saying in my head, "Oh, I wish I had food. I wish I had food," then it sucks, and you're like bent over, you're like, you see it in the people around you. They're like slapping themselves in the head. They're pissed. Oh, my flight got delayed. It shouldn't be like this. But if
Yeah,
you can just, oh, this is just how it is now, and take a breath of air, look around, and there's people, there's sunlight, and
Well, it's funny, like the environment of an airport, like the expectation is not to be there that long. Like you're getting to your other destination. So
yeah.
when you're not, then you're like, wait a second, this is not what's supposed to be happening in this environment. I'm not supposed to be sitting here that long. This wasn't part of the plan.
I feel like when
Like,
what this meditation does help in that kind of situation, because I've had like crazy stuff like that. I had like flying to Canada, I had my tickets cancelled, two planes that I booked got cancelled, and I had to book another one. Stuff like this. And all because it should be like this, it shouldn't be like this. And I was really worried, right? Whether I'll get like fined $1,000 or something like that. But then I feel like it's funny because I'm worrying about all this stuff. But if I just accept, okay, you know what, this is what it is right now, and just take a breath of fresh air and look around. There is like still stuff to do that wouldn't be possible if things just went the way it's supposed to go. You know what I mean? Like you're stuck in this airport, and then
mhm.
this shop calls you, and you meet this person, a bartender, and you have an amazing conversation with him, and you're just chilling. He recommends a movie, and that kind of changes your life. Those kind of stuff doesn't those kind of options don't open up because you're not open to that any sort of positive experiences anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, that's huge. And I totally like, as soon as you don't identify with the body, you have so much space because, oh, these are just things that are happening. And now I can like stay rooted in the intention of like seeing people as trees and being kind. And somebody drops this thing and I can pick it
People
up
trees.
for them and smile at them instead of like, get out of my way. You know? Two totally different worlds. It's just
Yeah.
so powerful.
Yeah, I
I
think
mean,
the
it's funny too, 'cause
mm,
I was just gonna say, like, everybody's in their own head there, right? Like worrying about
yeah.
themselves and where they have to go. And then it's like, but you're in this overwhelming sense of community because you're all there for the same thing. So it's
Yeah.
like everybody is feeling all the same things at once, but not bringing any like attention to it. They're just silently moaning, groaning, suffering over how their trip got changed. It's like we all just like recognized that and laughed about it, maybe it wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I use those kind of stuff like bond, like flights, huh? Like, yeah, man, flights, right? We are good friends now. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Like, how long were you stuck here today?
Yeah.
I really like the way that he sort of just in the chapter normalized that there's going to be a period where you just don't know what you should do, and to open to that too, because
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
temptation is like I need to have something. Like if I don't trust my old stuff, there's got to be something else. But just sort of accepting the free fall uncertainty. I think uncertainty at its core is really so hard for humans to grapple with.
Yeah.
Um,
Because your entire worldview is built to bring certainty, right? If you're comfortable with that
Mhm.
emotion,
yeah,
then you wouldn't need a worldview. You'd just be
this
vapid.
is like Krishnamurti gave a talk where he really honed in on like what is all this noise getting at, and like well, unpack, 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 and eventually it's like the ego just wants to survive. Really, it wants security,
Yeah.
and all these things are like threats to security of surviving, and
Yeah.
it's like that's why opening to death is so powerful because like once you do that you just have so much space at such a deep level of what generates the fears and the anxieties of like subconsciously like so much.
Let me ask you this. You feel like I was thinking about you feel like the fear of death will disappear or lessen in intensity if you let go of this pleasure in the moment, expectations, and stuff like that. Because if I think about it, why am I afraid of time? Because there is something I wish I could have done, regret, Mhm. or I would lose something. But that implies I'm holding on to something, right? Uh, so I was thinking, okay, if I just let go of holding on to living, then would the fear of death go away? I don't know. And I feel like the fear of death is like a manifestation of this need to survive, like the ultimate
Mhm.
manifestation.
Well,
So
isn't it funny that it like implies that there's this consciousness afterwards that you're gonna look back and be like, oh my gosh, I wish I did all this. It's
yeah,
like we don't even know if there is that opportunity. It could just be quiet. And then it's like, well, then I wouldn't have any thoughts or feelings of missing anything anyway.
yeah,
So to like sit here and think that, oh no, like I don't want to die because of this fear of I didn't do enough or, you know, what would I be missing out on? It's like we don't even know if we would have that consciousness of like to feel that way at all.
yeah. It almost feels like there's no real good reason to like survive, other than this just impulse or this need to like survive. There's not actually any like good reason as to like why we need to survive or something like that. Like why are they holding on to living? Gonna die, gonna live, whatever. But it doesn't feel that way.
Hmm.
But there's no good reason though to hold on to living. Apart from this like, animalistic impulse to like shit, I need to like survive, and everything is designed that way, adrenaline rush and all that stuff. That you just live longer.
It's like an instinct.
Yeah, but it doesn't
And I
feel like
think,
a decision
you
I
obviously
made.
need,
Uh-huh.
you need to use extreme caution when exploring this territory. For
Hmm.
obvious reasons.
Yeah,
Because, what we're saying is just easing the clinging to survival.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the obvious way in which that goes wrong is like craving death, which is suicidal thoughts and all that
Oh yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
But that's just
100%.
the opposite to craving life, is craving death. And
Yeah,
what
yeah,
you're
no,
really
craving
trying
death.
to do is walk on a balance beam between the two.
Let go of craving itself. You know what's funny? So I follow this guy called actualize.org, right? This is not actually funny. It's actually kind of sad. Uh, it's a guy called actualize.org, and he had a forum, alright? And there was like a guy, he lived in Canada. Uh, and he was a pretty active member. He had like good insights. He like helps people and stuff. He jumped off from bridge and died. He had like a kid and stuff. And he like texted his friend. It's kind of messed up. He texted his friend something like, yeah, all this stuff is meaningless. I'll see you like afterlife or in the dream, like in the real world, not dream world. Letting go of the dream world. I'll see you in the afterlife or something like that. And he just jumped off. It's crazy.
Mm.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
that's true.
it's that's so important to hold on to the idea that any pushing or pulling is still going to leave you unclear. So
Hmm.
it's understandable and we should encourage it for sure to, like, if you're going to fall off the balance beam, fall way off on the side of survival, of course.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
softening these things, holding too tight to survival is just suffering too. So
Mhm. Yeah, what I'm trying to
finding
like
that.
say is there's no actually good reason to like push or pull. The act of like just craving doesn't seem to have any reason. Like there seems to be like no good reason why craving would be like a good idea.
Why creating, you
No,
said?
no, craving.
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 Oh.
Although I do it,
Craving.
when I think about it, I'm like, this doesn't. Why would like if any option is better, craving is not like the top one. But you can only see the other options once you let go of the craving.
It depends what viewport you're looking out of, right? So if you're seeing the world identified as the body and the mind and being separate and incomplete, then I need all of these things so that I can feel good forever. I mean, that's the naive sort of energy you bring to it, is like, once I get this thing, I'll be good,
Yeah, yeah.
over and over and over.
Mhm. That's why I feel like letting go of attachment is, I think, is a good word. Is letting go of attachments or acceptance too. So accepting what is, I feel, yeah, to accept what is, to have like let go of attach of what could be. Mm. But yeah, I definitely feel there's like an imbalance, uh, because I feel like, sometimes either we are like too self-centered or we are too self-sacrificing, where we kind of sacrifice ourselves because we think, it's weird, you know. Like, I study like the psychology stuff, and there's like this not psychology stuff as an actual psychology. This is like the personality type, that kind of stuff. And
Hmm.
there's like this trait, right, which I find really interesting, which is like self about tribe and tribe about self. They're two kind of like patterns, all right. Self about tribe is someone like me. I'm putting myself above the tribe, and I'm like seeing the pattern. And there's other type of people like tribe above self. They're like more self-sacrificing, you know, where they don't want to take the decision. They want to like let the tribe take the decision. Tribe and the group of people take the decision. And I spoke to them, right? I spoke like many of them, but it's still coming from a place of survival, because it's like, oh, when I do need the tribe, they would be there for me, kind of reasoning, which is kind of interesting. Some people who just sacrifice what they want so that the tribe is happy, but in that process they're not like fulfilling their own needs, and which I find is interesting. But even that is still coming from a need to survive. Or for them, it makes sense that a good survival strategy is helping the tribe, so when they need the tribe, they'll be there for them too, or something like that. It is all still like a survival strategy. I liked what they said in the book about the the people who often reach enlightenment are the people helping the other people.
Bodhisattva, Buddhism.
Yeah, and I also liked.
Yeah.
I don't know is this chapter or not, because my memory is kind of hazy now. But he kind of said your goal is not to be like a Buddha or a Jesus or something. The only reason they were famous is because they were being themselves, you know. And your goal is also not to be someone else, but be the best, be the you that you are, without the attachment, which has its own flavor. I like that concept as well.
Yeah, it was cool how he said like personality doesn't go away, right? Jesus, Buddha all had personalities, and so uh, it's like awakening experience is getting space outside that personality, but still seeing it. And so this re-entering is like, what do I do with this personality that thinks that it wants this or that? You know, in
Yeah,
a world where we need to really help each other, or just see things as they are, or do both. You know. Interesting. One of my meditation teachers described it as like a Buddha is not only somebody who's awake, but somebody who awakens without having any prior teaching and can turn around and teach it themselves in a way that's very effective. So it's like the bringing out of the darkness, because you know the whole cyclical theory of the universe is that like we remember and then we all forget, and then
yeah,
somebody spontaneously comes up and remembers and teaches, and then that's like the Buddha, you know. I just thought that was kind of cool.
yeah. I feel everyone has different style. I don't. I
That's
think
kind of the tongue-in-cheek thing about Zen, where it's like, well, technically, like a person who doesn't hear or learn a thing about Zen it probably is gonna wander into Zen the deepest.
yeah, I feel like Krishnamurti. I feel like I think he is like a peak example of just self inquiry. You know, you just want to get enlightened through like asking. questions to yourself list. Fucking hell, dude. So he did. Just like very logically deconstructed everything and reached to the truth. It's crazy. This is what I like about him. Different aspect. But I feel like, do you guys feel like letting go of all like attachment and stuff like that gives you like a better sense of clarity as to what to do with the personality? That's what it feels like to me.
That's a big question mark for me. I don't know. I mean, he hasn't really touched on where that clarity comes from in the book.
Yeah, I don't know as well.
He sort of alluded to the fact that getting clarity could take years, which was kind of reassuring. But yeah, what should I be doing? It's a very hard question.
The easy answer is nothing, right? Like we could just like take everything that we've talked about and it's like, well, technically there's inherently nothing we need to do. But then it doesn't really leave us, I don't know, there's something missing there, it feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a part of us wants to be happy, joyous, and free, and that definitely repels in a positive way. But for you to fully be happy, joyous, and free, you need to be doing stuff that makes you happy, joyous, and free. Living, thinking thoughts that makes you happy, joyous, and free. That's what I was thinking today. Like, damn, it's like, why do like enlightened people? I feel like have so much clarity, and why is like not all enlightened people are like monks and stuff like that. Some people like carpenters, at least in like Japan, they like find zen in carpentry, archery. That's like a thing in Japan where they use like or like even samurais, where they where they kind of like find zen in like samurai craftsmanship that they do. And I feel like when you're like doing something your heart sings, you kind of naturally have this kind of headspace to like do this kind of work, or 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 just have the headspace where you're more clear, you're in the moment, you're not really worried because it doesn't feel like work. It feels like this is what you're supposed to do, and you don't, and it's okay, One big problem that I have, that I'm still like still I feel like I'm coming to terms with, but I'm not quite there yet, is the fact of trying to box myself in. Like, what do I want to box myself into? Because if I don't, someone else will, in their whatever's plan. So I need to like settle in something. I can't just be like wandering from like doing little bit, little bit, little bit, little bit. Even though I'm talking shit about survival, I still have to like pay the bills and stuff like that, right? This is where the ego comes in. So I feel like to have the both thing, where you're like paying the bills, but also feel like you have the headspace to like be enlightened. You need to be doing something that you're passionate about or something that excites you. It doesn't feel like work, but it's not like just being lazy and watching YouTube and medicating yourself with social media.
It's just like a yoga, right? Whatever you're doing for work is a yoga.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter.
yeah, that's also another good, actually a good perspective. What I'm doing for work is yoga. To find zen in doing stuff I don't like. There's actually like a survey. The happiest people are often the people who are like doing like normal jobs, like cleaning the sewers, uh, uh mm, like people like farmers, not farmers exactly. I don't know, some farmers, people who do like simple job, they're like super happy, they're like content. But it's not like they're not suffering, but it feels like
Well, I think
they almost chose it. Yeah.
there's an interesting question there about the relationship, right, between, I guess, wealth and being free, being happy. Nina and I noticed this yesterday. We went to Telluride, which is supposed to be this super ritzy, expensive place. And maybe we were just projecting a bit, but it seemed, Nina said like you can tell when someone's got money.
The way they walk by you is just a little different.
It's like, and it feels tight, it feels tight, and you don't know what's going on in their head or anything.
Well,
but
it's funny because to speak to that, it was
Yeah.
the difference between where I live and that place, the warmth of the people around here, even though the place I live in is it's an interesting there's an interesting political dynamic here. There's a lot of like angst going on and there's a lot of change happening, but people are still really kind and warm to each other that I've noticed.
So you feel rich people aren't?
What'd you say?
So you feel rich people aren't kind and warm? Because you said you could see the rich people apart from normal people or something like that.
people aren't.
No, so what I was gonna say was that when I'm out here, I feel like everyone's like a little more like open and warm when you're, just like walking out in the street and you say hi to people in the morning, like that kind of thing. And when we were walking in Telluride, even though they lean more towards this like extreme acceptance politically and everything.
Liberal.
Yeah. It didn't feel as warm. And it could just be because it's more of like a tourist destination. But there is this undertone of like, there is no chance in my lifetime that I'll ever be able to afford living there ever. And it's a beautiful, beautiful place, but there is this like air there and the people just don't feel as warm. So we were talking about that yesterday, and I don't know if that was just like a projection like you were talking about, but
Well, it's easy for me to imagine, like at the core, what's working is like when you're wealthy, you're very used to your expectations living up to reality, and if they don't, you throw money at it until it does. So maybe it's more likely that you're just in this constant state of scanning your environment of like, is this all satisfactory? What can be improved? And you're used to having your way in that sense. Whereas maybe if you're not as wealthy, you sort of learn to just accept the way things are more because you have more experience of seeing things you don't like and not being able to get rid of them and having to practice with like, okay, what do I do with this?
Uh, w-
But
uh,
that's just a
I'm,
poor man punching upwards, so take it for what it is.
yeah, I'm sorry guys. What is telemarketing exactly? Telemarket? What is it?
oh, it's called Telluride.
Telluride, yeah.
It's a town.
It's a mountain town and it's like nestled in the San Juan Mountains. It's beautiful.
Looks like
But what happened was it used to be like an old mining town, and then just a lot of people from like Texas and California and outside of the state started just buying property there and just drove up the prices. And it has like world-class skiing and all kinds of things, but it's slowly like pushing out the working people, really. And it's like all vacation homes and rentals that people just spend all this money on. And it's an interesting place, just nestled in the mountains. It's beautiful, but there's a different vibe
Yeah.
there. And it's like you start realizing like, and I don't know, like we were saying, it might not be true. It might just have been this like projection that we were putting on the people. But like I consider like living in a place where there isn't as much of that wealth. It seems like the people here are happier. I don't know. Did you get that vibe yesterday?
warmer, yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
right. Like just a little more like willing to say, hey, how are you doing? Like more community.
Mhm.
Like I guess the money like can isolate too.
I mean,
Yeah.
it definitely adds a lot more to be swept away with. Like, I mean, when you don't really have to dwell on things as much when you have money to throw at it. Things to get taken care of.
Yeah.
Becomes like a part. It's just another part of identity.
I feel like, honestly, I just feel they have like different sorts of problems, They now have more like interpersonal
Uh-huh.
problems with like relationships, social dynamics, status. Let's say they want to change the world, how do you do that? I feel like everyone in the end of the day does still have like problems and stuff like that. But it's just like the
Yeah.
level of the problem, like the It's not survival anymore. It's more like a higher order problem, I guess. That's what it feels like. All the people still have the same problems, same root cause attachment.
Well, yeah, it just kind of goes along with like if you fulfill all those basic needs, it's like where do you put your energy after that?
Hmm.
Yeah,
So there's like always something.
yeah. Also, I feel like with being rich, I think this is my perspective. I feel like when you're like spending expensive stuff, and not like in a dumb way, right? Of course, there are people who blow like $1 million or whatever. But if you like, just if you like a little bit smart about it, and if you just buy expensive stuff, like I don't know, like a house that's a good that's a good value or something like a place in that, it still keeps giving you returns, you know. So you're never actually losing that. You're never actually like losing money. It's like how when you're buying like a food or something that it feels like you're losing money because it still keeps returning the investment, and worst case scenario you can just sell it for a higher price. You know what I
So
mean?
what I think too, like buying like a bike, for example, it's like you're gaining experience after that, right? So
Yeah,
it's like losing physical money but gaining
yeah. And I feel like if you buy like an
something
expensive
bigger.
bike, even after like using, you can still sell it and make good return, you know, compared to like like even expensive watches. It's not like the watch kind of loses a lot of value. You still like make some money out of it when you do sell it. Yeah.
I don't know if I told this story. I might have. My dad was like on the internet, and he found some guy. I don't know what it was on, like maybe the Quora Digest. I always get that stuff. I don't know if you guys get it. Um, but just somebody going on in like a question answer, like please help me type thing, of like going on about how successful he was his whole life. I guess he was an older guy. He's got X amount of money, so many properties, his wife, blah blah blah, huge retirement plan, and just he was so absolutely consumed by like I'm still worried about the future. I'm still anxious. Will it be enough? Will it be enough? Um, and it was just such a perfect case of like here's a guy who did absolutely everything that like our society thinks that you should do to be happy and in a good place, but it's just the opposite in terms of experience, you know.
Yeah, I don't know who said this. There's like there's a YouTuber, or I don't know where I heard this. Like they're actually like their parents are like rich, so the person is like came. Oh, yeah, it's actually my friend. So my friend's parents are rich, not rich as in super wealthy, but they came up from poor background, so they have this money of like they have this habit of saving money, right? So their parents are they're so much into that. So they saved up enough money for the retirement, yeah, and they're retired. All right, they're living their retired life, and they get pension, right? And they even save the pension as well. And it's like, dude, why are you like saving the pension? You know, because you can because you're supposed to like spend it. Isn't what you like saved up money for? And it's like, no, they still keep saving the pension that they get that they saved up to for the retirement, which I found was which I thought was pretty funny. Yeah, even the dog doesn't like it. Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like it's really like a mindset stuff, you know. I feel all this stuff,
Hmm.
or the way you look at the
Perspective.
world in this moment. Honestly, I feel if you cannot be happy now, you can never be happy anytime, and that's a weird paradox, right? If you can never be happy now, you cannot be happy anytime, or your happiness becomes very conditional on the external circumstances. But if you become happy now, you get opportunities to become more happy in the future as well, or at different flavors of happiness. I feel like you can just taste. It's a
If you
paradox,
can't
though.
live fully in the present, then the future is a hoax. I'm pretty sure that's an Alan Watts quote. I love that one.
Wait,
What
could you
was it
repeat that?
again?
If you can't live fully in the present, then the future is a hoax.
Mm. I
I mean,
like
I
it.
was gonna say, Vito, you say if you can't be happy now, you can never be happy. I was gonna twist it and say if you can't be happy now, then everything it just goes to show that everything that you have right now doesn't equate to happiness. So you just gotta
Mhm.
change your point of view.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like we are all indoctrinated this point of view, right? That's supposed to be happiness, a beach body, fucking wealth, wearing good clothes. Like so bizarre, guys. So this is like my stuff. And when I was like I don't know, kid, yeah, 15, 16. I used to like watch animes, right? So the animes and stuff, they're like a rich guy who's just like doing his stuff, and he like wears like good clothes in his house. Like what clothes I usually like reserve to, I don't know, wear outside, like chinos and stuff like that. The guy would be like wearing inside because he can, It's not like that big of a deal for him. And I always thought, damn, I wanted that. And now I'm in Canada. I didn't bring any like house clothes because I could only get like one suitcase full of clothes and everything else. So in my house I usually wear stuff that I usually like wear outside, So I, and it's like, now I'm actually like living the dream that I had where I'm like always wearing kind of good clothes. But it doesn't do anything for me. I got this watch. I got my first automatic watch, which I love watches, right? And I'm like, yeah, when I go outside, it feels good and stuff, but it doesn't like add or remove anything from life. And it's like, what the fuck am I even doing? It's so bizarre. But I'm just chasing. I'm like a dog trying to like catch a car. I don't know. I think I heard this somewhere. Yeah. Like who said that? I think Alan was, you're like a dog trying to chase a car once. You don't know what to do with the car once you did catch it. It's funny
That's
that
the
dogs do
Joker,
that.
my
Happened to me, yeah. The dogs started chasing us, but once the car stopped, they just stopped too and they just started barking. I'm like, dude, why? What do you want?
I mean, I don't think you should like beat yourself up for liking those things, though. I mean, it's part of you, right?
No,
Hmm.
no, no. I don't. Yeah, I do
It's
like
like
it. I
what
don't regret
you,
buying the watch or something. I'm just like noticing the
yeah.
dynamic. It
Yeah,
just,
and that's like the best part is that awareness piece, right? Of just
yeah,
being
yeah,
like, oh, this is kind of silly, but yeah, I do like it, but it's silly. And that's okay, you
Mhm.
know?
yeah. And the paradoxical nature is I like it more when I don't, where I'm not trying to like get my happiness from the watch. Like if I'm happy and if I have the watch, I feels like, wow, it is like a representation where my happiness is being represented in an external world, which is a different sort of joy,
Mm.
Mm.
rather than
But yeah, like I yeah.
like the external reality is aligning with my internal world. What are you saying, even?
Mhm. I was just gonna say, like, I felt like well, I still do probably sometimes, it's just like fighting against those feelings sometimes of the things that you are like, I don't know. I think we were talking about this yesterday about social media, like posting on social media, where you're like, ugh, I hate that I feel like I want this validation from others, but like in reality, I do. So if I just like do it sometimes just to get that little serotonin boost, it's like, is it really that bad to do it? But it's like you hate that part of yourself, that little bit that's like, kind
Yeah.
of want that validation today. I'm feeling it, but
Mm.
This might
you're
be a
like
hot
fighting.
take, but yeah, but I feel like women have it way harder in social media and all these unrealistic pictures. Honestly, this weird angle, dude, the Snapchat and all that shit, it just fucking warps your face to literally look pretty, and it's like, dude, mind fuck. Kind of don't like it personally, but I feel like women have more pressure for that sort of stuff.
It's funny. I've like switched more to um like photos of experiences and things, like just beautiful places.
Yeah, no.
And there's a piece of that too where it's like, am I would explore like, am I doing this because I want everyone to be like, wow, look at this, or am I doing this because I'm really appreciating the beauty of the place that I'm in? And then that's like a battle as well. But yeah, there are a lot of expectations on there of like beauty expectations.
Yeah.
But I don't feel as connected to that probably as I did when I was younger.
Yeah, it's funny.
Um,
I had like this feed in my Instagram where it's like this model, right? Literally has like 4 million likes or four like, yeah. 400,000 or 4 million, or whatever the number is, right? And she's like a
Mhm.
cute picture of her. Not like cute. I mean, not my vibe, because she had like plastic surgery and stuff. I don't like that personally. So it's like whatever. But I read it on like the post that has like a description. Is like, oh, I look so. It's like, oh, if I just have this nose from this person, like the like where they have that nose, damn, I look fucking pretty. I thought to myself, yo, what the fuck is going on? Here's a person who has like fucking 4 million likes, and they're like thinking, oh yeah, my nose is fucking just a little bit crooked on this like left side. Yeah, just need to fix that tiny bit, and then boom, perfect. Yeah, my cheeks, dude, are just a little bit.
Well,
I'm like, dude,
there's yeah, there's a like social media is like watching a car wreck. Like when you're on the highway, it's just like you can't look away from. I mean, because you can feel the pain through the pictures, right?
yeah,
It's like just people just like really needing that, like just insecurities on display, right? I mean, I might be generalizing, but
yeah.
it's sad. Like, and I feel it sometimes when I'm looking through it. And you guys really should watch. I don't know if anybody has, but that Inside by Bo Burnham
Oh,
on
everyone
Netflix.
keeps recommending that. Is it really good? That good?
Yeah,
I've seen it like 3 times.
yeah,
It's
we've
so good.
we've watched it too many times. But
Yeah.
he kind of touches on the internet and like social media, and like it's pretty relevant.
It's a masterpiece.
And I mean, it could be
We
our
should actually watch
movie
it
attached
together.
to the book club.
Movie night. Yes, Alan Moore
Yeah,
movie night.
yeah. But it could be something we attach because there's a lot to unpack in it too. Yeah, but he touches on social media, and that's kind of why we were thinking about it this week a little bit. And like, yeah, it's a strange thing that like our generation is dealing with that nobody else really had, like just that on display all the time. And like
Yeah, so much of your
we
bullshit is
have
on camera. Yeah.
different
Why?
we have a different set of expectations for life because of that, I think,
Mhm.
so it's like
Yeah.
it's harder for us to stay in that awakened state, right? Because
Yeah.
to be part of your community, sometimes you have to be like we were talking about trying to like delete and get offline, and how difficult that is because you like would lose touch with your community, but also noticing how toxic that is as well.
The thing is, it, what we have now that previous generation didn't have is that we have more of a need to be a brand. Like everyone is a brand now.
Mhm.
Social media is like your brand, and it comes with all the pros and cons as a brand. Because like if you're like a dumb kid and you did some fucked up stuff in the high school or something, yeah. Once you like leave the high school, none of that actually matters because you don't have like a brand that like people see you and associate you with, or like, oh yeah, this is Prem, stuff like this.
Mhm.
But right now we do. Everyone needs to, like, if you want to get hired in like good companies, you need to have a good brand where the community that you want to get hired by sees you in a certain light, right? And that
Mhm.
you need to like not only like the technical aspect, but you should also need to be the cool guy doing cool stuff, adventurous, doing cool, I don't know, cool things, I guess. And you get judged by that. You have that need
Um,
now, and all this weird stuff, which is like, fuck. It's not harder. It's just weirdly like hard. It's not mm, unnecessary is what I feel, and I feel it needs to be something that I don't know, after like you reach 25 or something you should do this. I don't feel like kids need to do that. I see such dumb TikToks, dude. I'm like, oh my god, how? Why?
thinking about social media and I mean internet, social media, and then with awakening, I've had this thought where it's almost it's really funny because I feel like when you listen to like Krishnamurti or Alan Watts or Ram Dass, they all sort of even in this book it just talks about how within the last, we can say, like 50 years, this is sort of like a more common thing. Like this is happening more and more frequently, and like people are
Mhm.
finding this more. And I think it's funny because I think it's actually becoming easier with the technology that we have like with
Mhm.
to have this sort of experience because of like just the people out there talking about it, the media that's available, the drugs that are available. Like the states have much easier to come into contact with than
Yeah,
before, I think we could say. But it's also at the same time harder because of this technology and media,
yeah,
because your personality and your ego extends to an online like personality and everything. Like your ego has like transcended in a way to a digital form, and it's completely wild how taxing that can be. You were talking about it as a brand, and I mean that's exactly what it is, because like you feel that, I mean, how much thought goes into like what you post and how you act online. Like even like it's absolutely insane, and it's just so wild to have like these two counter counter countering things. Like it's much easier to experience awakening, but it's much harder to completely break away from like society and the normal norms of society. And this is what the book kind of touched on, where like, way back when in ancient times, if people had an awakening, they had a mountainous like temple to go to and sit in a cell and just deal with reality. And here it's like, all right, well, I got work on Monday, so I make this weekend count. Like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
absolutely crazy how
Yeah.
yeah.
Let me
how
post
this
my yoga
natural balance
pose and
happens.
namaste.
I need to like Snapchat this, make that duck face, kiss the ear, and take a pic.
Puts you even more in your head, really,
Also, what's the problem here? I don't think like many people touch on this aspect of it, but it's like uh, your your ego, I feel, is more real compared to like, because now like I feel like the more people know your brand, the more real your ego becomes. Because in your head, if you're living in a dualistic view where there is me and there's someone else and stuff like that, even if you say this is not me, yeah, but if like I don't know, group of people think this is who you are, changing it is going to be, I feel, much harder. At least for me it would. If that's why I'm not that present, because I don't want to like commit to like an online presence. This is me, yeah. There are very few things I commit to, like the spirituality. I'll be like, yeah, okay, this isn't my identity. But so many other stuff I'm just trying. I don't want to be associated with it.
Well, it's kind of funny. I feel like social media makes it clear to you what you're trying to project, right? Like when you're
Yeah,
looking
exactly.
at it and it's like, oh, this is what I want everybody to think I am
Yeah,
or what I want to be. And then, kind of like turns on you a little bit.
yeah. You also
It's
use like a
scary.
conversation starter. You can't have a normal conversation anymore. You have to like pick up from their bio and kind of like connect the dots. I see you
But it
like
is
friends
true. It
too.
does.
Me too. Huh.
I'm sorry.
No, no, no. What are you saying? I was just making a joke.
I was just saying that, like what Boots said, it is true that the access to all this stuff is a lot larger. But it does kind of become for some people like their brand now, you know?
Yeah, it's like a marketing thing. It's like your brand. Like even in
Yeah.
it's so like shoot up in fame. It takes time, but losing it is like an instant. You do a little bit of dumb stuff. You succumb to the ego stuff, and like boom, gone.
Hmm.
It happens to like gurus as well. Happened to Osho. The guy is like an enlightened dude, but he wasn't. He didn't deal with his shadow, so he was not really like capable to like run a community. But the guy was enlightened, had everything, but it ended up not that great.
Oregon.
I get conflicted about all of this because in some sense it's all unique, right? There hasn't been an internet before, there hasn't been social media, but in some sense it's all very familiar. So like
Yeah.
when you're talking about when you're talking about the model who says, "Oh, if I only had my nose different, I need to get more plastic surgery." Meanwhile, she has 4 million people liking her pictures. Like that's just like, I need to get a better position at work and then I'll be happy. And then I need more and more and more.
Yeah.
And like it's the same. It's like the when you don't get what you want and or when you get what you want and you're still unhappy, right? You can take that in one of two ways. You can go like, oh, well, maybe that desire was actually not very trustworthy. Maybe these desires I should take a closer look at them. Or it's like maybe I just wanted something else. That thing I thought I wanted, it turns out I'm still feeling the way I did, so I should just get something else or do more, get more and more and more. And so like I that's always been there, right? And it's such a trap of suffering. But I think what we get now is that the internet, I mean, we created the internet with our minds. Our minds projected this into reality. And as long as these
Hmm.
forces work in people's minds, there's going to be a market for it that somebody's going to exploit. So that's how you get Snapchat filters that show people what they could be like, or like
That's fucking
all
scary, dude,
these
honestly. It's very disturbing.
all these feedback mechanisms that come from the depths of our minds that circle around if I just had this, if I just had that, if I just looked like this. And so it's like we're still doing this dance of like, is my spacesuit nice? I'll tell you yours is nice if you tell me mine is nice. But it's just so hyper fixated now is that we're zooming in further and further on these little details of the spacesuit and getting more and more fixated and not really getting anywhere, right? But it's when you're in there, it's hard to see that you're not getting anywhere because you're still believing the narrative of like, oh, the next one's gonna do it, the next one's gonna do it.
Yeah. Man, when you like go met, yeah, I keep blaming the society. I'm actually I should blame myself because I feel like it's still like a world that I'm still subscribed to. Oh, you're not happy? You don't have a better job yet. That's it. Wait, what? You're not happy? You need money. Wait, you're still not happy? Actually use that money to like look better. And once you have a beach body, then you look then you'll be happy. Trust me. Dude, you walk on that beach, people look at you, damn, it feels so good. It's funny, dude.
Yeah. And what I work with myself is that when you start to feel into this, there's such a desire, really an aversion to just push it all away. All right, I'm gonna go live in a cave now. Like, all right, we tried this, didn't work, I'm out. Um, but I think Ramdas said it really well. That's like in our modern age, the enlightenment, the activity doesn't happen in a cave in the mountains. It happens by being in relationship to all this stuff that's happening. And so the question is like, yeah, now that you're aware of this, can you be on social media and stabilize yourself enough to see what's going on and not run away and, stabilize to see how things are?
So what do you suggest? Like apart from like at least what I'm like slowly trying now. First of all, I'm realizing the state of consciousness really does matter. Like if I'm sad in that state of consciousness, I cannot do anything to like let go of it or anything like that. So I first have to do like meditation and stuff like that, like breathing exercises that gets me to like a different state. It is much more like non-personal, and then I can start thinking in a more sane way. You know what I mean? But I feel like when you're in that state of being, you don't feel like, oh, you know what, this state of being doesn't serve me. I need to like go to a different state of being or something like that. Like the recent problem I'm having is I wake up every day, even like today. I had like alarm set at like 6, but I woke up at 8:30 because subconsciously I go, I have call at 10. I can wake up at 8:30. Know what I mean? And then I just do it. And then I wake up and I'm like, damn, I should have woken up early today. my day would have been a lot more easier. But all that's ego, Yeah.
I do that every day.
Yeah.
You're
I'm always like, oh man, I should have got up earlier. But then I realize it doesn't matter anyway.
you're prompting me to remind. I'm reminded of like a pretty useful little. I guess it's an app. It's got a dumb name. It's called Whoop, WOOP. I'm sure it stands for something, but it's like it comes out of social psychology, and it's based in mindfulness, although it's not framed that way. The guy who came up with it sort of act like he was the first one to discover it, which whatever. But it's like you analyze your habits, and it's like, is there a habit I want to change? Okay, let's go into it. What thoughts usually arise when I go with the habit when I don't want to? And then you look at those thoughts directly, and it's like, what thoughts do I need to have in order to not follow those you know what I mean? So it's been shown to be
Oh,
very
guys, I
effective.
haven't shared this, right? This is site I sent it to you in Discord. Yeah, this is a new thing you could do. It's amazing and it's simple, right? So there are a bunch of questions you can ask yourself, but the thing is, you're not supposed to answer them. So I have like an hyperactive mind myself. So when someone asks any questions, my mind actually starts thinking answer. So there are like questions like, how good can I feel today? But I should not answer it, you see, because the moment I start answering it, the ego kicks in. I should just like muse in it, like vibe with the question, and that kind of like helps me just like get a different state of mind. How many times can I catch myself being aware, or how good does it feel being aware, but not answer it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that. That's helping me a bit. It just reminded me of when you said that. Whoop, right? You said the name is.
Yeah, I mean, it's shown to be effective. I might check it out. But yeah, I think it's good to mix it in terms of like little habits that you want to change. I think it's good to like set intentions, mix it up, or just even just like whatever your spiritual practice looks like in a given week. Do some things the same, try things differently.
Yeah, I feel.
It's funny though. It's like instead of looking at things like I should have woke up earlier, it's like maybe I needed to sleep more. It's like shifting that perspective sometimes.
I don't know
Yeah.
whether
Of
you
like
have
that
this
was
or
my
not.
body telling me.
Oh, really? The
What
thing
you say?
is, with sleep for me, if I sleep too much, I mess it up, and if I feel sleep too little, also I mess it up. I need to sleep just right, 8 hours. Because if I sleep too much, also I feel tired. I don't know that you guys have it or not.
Your Goldilocks of sleeps.
Once I figure out my sleep, I'll be enlightened, guys.
Yeah. Mhm.
But how are you guys liking the book so far? What about you, Ray?
I love it. I find it very relatable, and I might buy the physical copy because this is very much the space I'm in of like uh, this past year I've seen some shit just meditating, and it's like it kind of changes how you see things in the world, and it's like, what the heck am I supposed to do with this? And that's very much the alive portion for me right now. So I
What do you do
appreciate this
when you do
perspective.
psychedelics? Do you meditate?
When you what?
When you do psychedelics, do you meditate or you just like listen to like lectures? Like, what do you do?
Well, my past experience, I think all my experiences have been with friends. So I just sort of coast along with the activities of what's going on.
Okay.
Um, I've only done psychedelics maybe twice since like my hardcore meditation, you know, inspired year of meditating. And you do check, you do check in often, right? Because the more you meditate, the more you have that reflex of like, oh, there's weird thoughts I don't like. Let me just
Oh,
be aware,
100%. Yeah.
and you just keep coming back, coming back. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been different.
So the thing that's interesting for me is that sometimes I feel like when people choose to take psychedelics, it's almost with that expectation again of like what the result of this is going to be. Like, I mean, I've been around our friends when they're planning on doing this big thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, what do you guys like what's gonna happen that you're waiting for, you know? And like I feel like anytime that I've done it, it's like I feel like it always because I get nervous about it, so it has to
Oh,
be at a time where I'm like, all right,
yeah.
it's just happening, like I can't contemplate, you know?
Yeah.
But I've seen a change actually like in Rave's ability to just do it when he's like not looking for anything. It just kind of opportunity presents. But do you find yourself planning it? That's my question to you.
No, not really. It's more like, oh, you have a mushroom? Yum, let's do it. You know,
Yeah,
like
like it turns
Yum.
into that.
Um,
I did mushrooms
I,
too recently. Not recently, before April. Yeah. But
I've done it a
I
lot
was
less than acid, but I really enjoyed mushrooms so far.
mushroom is
I
good.
like mushrooms a lot more than LSD. My first LSD experience was actually completely. I was blindsided by it because my best friend invited me to a concert, and then he was like, "Hey, by the way, I have this if you want to try it."
That's
And
exactly what happened to me.
Me
I
too.
was like, and I had never done a drug at that point. Never like never smoked or anything like that. I drank a little bit, but for some reason I was like, hell yeah, let's do it.
Get big.
And I did it, and it was like it was a life-changing thing. Um,
Mhm.
super awesome though. Like and like I hear so many people tell that sort of story, Rave, where it's like I don't know, just it was just there and it found me.
Yeah. Do you feel like you go into it now like hoping for something?
No, I don't. I do. I have an intent, but it's like lighter and lighter.
Uh-huh.
My last psilocybin experience, really like how Watts talks about like you actually pointed this out, Nina, in our last book. He was like, when you get the message, hang up the phone.
Oh
And
yeah,
my
I love it.
Uh-huh.
last experience put me really close to that, where I came out of it and I cried like the majority of the experience, but it was such a good. It was kind of like something related in this chapter where it's like you just feel like a release from like this weight you didn't know you had, and I really felt that. Like I authentically felt that feeling, and so ever since I guess I've had less of a reason. Like the first time I couldn't plan anything. I just did it. The
Yeah,
second, the times after that, I was like, well, I kind of like want to explore. Like I've read this Terrence McKenna thing. He talks about this, and I want to see what this kind of like state
yeah,
of mind's like.
yeah,
And then I guess like I did that, and it was cool. Like I didn't like take anything from it that I was like, gonna change the world with. Like it changed my life, but I don't think it really changed it was like world changing. And then my last experience,
Mhm.
I had that feeling where I don't know, like it was just everything was just very clear. And ever since then, I really haven't had like a strong pull. I know I'll do it again. Um, it's just I guess I'm just in a way kind of just waiting it out. Like, what when is like when's that going to come up?
I did
But I
shrooms.
think it's always important to have some form of intent because that
Yeah,
helps ground you if things get tough. Because I think it's inevitable that tough
Mhm.
things come up in that state.
yeah.
Mhm.
I did shrooms, and I'm okay. So I hate to admit this, but I kind of like do it like a ritualistic. I knew that from going in. This needs to be like a ritual thing, so it needs to be like planned out. At least like how a ritual is like a festival, You plan this out for like this moment or something like that. But I was like going with this expectation of, oh, I'm gonna see fucking machine elves, fucking different dimensions and open up fucking portals because, listen to Terence McKenna, right? That's the kind of shit he talks about. Oh, I did this pure psychedelic, and I went to this like reptilian world, and they were like surprised to see me there. And I'm like, holy shit, dude, I want some of that reptilian experience. So I did the thing. I did I did shrooms. I was actually contemplating that the something, and then luckily I was doing this alone, right? Uh, I got on Discord like speaking to my friend, and she said I told her like I was doing shrooms. I did shrooms, and everything was like whatever the shrooms hits, how it feels, right? And luckily she asked me like, Preem, what do you think love is? What is love? And, and I'm like, shit. I actually don't know, you know.
I don't know.
And that's what I felt like.
Everything.
That's where I feel my like, trip began. Just like, shit, what is love? I need to like watch it. And I was like watching people speak, and it was like some people from. It felt like Lord of the Rings, you know, at least the vibe. I don't know how to put it. Like the character felt more high definition, more clear. The colors like more popping. I'm like just listening to them, and I'm like getting it. You know, I feel like yeah, I was getting it. I was like giggling and stuff. Yeah, but I feel like what why I share this is I feel like the group of people you're in, you're doing it with. I feel like colors the experience. You know.
Big time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like without a doubt.
But no, I've seen people who are like so ready and they make like these big plans and like they're like, we gotta do this to enhance it and this and that. And like almost always it ends up being the person who starts freaking out. And then it's like
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting how it happens because it's that whole expectation of like we have to make this the most epic thing ever. And then it
Make it
becomes the
count.
most epic thing ever when they can't handle it.
Like, whoa, why did we do this?
Yeah.
Actually,
Why'd you
okay.
let me do that?
So you guys will hate me for this, all right? But also, people, if someone listened this for probably not, but if someone did, don't do what I did. So my friend told me who did shrooms, it never feels like you had enough shrooms. No matter how much shrooms you take, it doesn't feel like you always feel like, oh, I should have taken a little bit more. So I had like three, yeah. So I had like 3 grams of shrooms right with me. And I thought I'll do like some newbie thing, and then see how it goes or whatever. So I did one. 40 minutes in, I just looked at the packet and I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going all in. I want to have an experience like don't forget. And I just had all 3 grams. Yeah. And nothing happened, fortunately. But yeah. Also, I knew I could like take care of myself to a certain like meditation and like, breathing exercises, like calm myself down if something did go
Nothing
wrong.
happened.
No, nothing happened. But I did like a dumb thing, I think. Like looking back, I'm like, I should have had a little bit, see how it went, and had a little bit more. But I actually did 3 grams on my first trip. Which I don't know. It's a good thing or a bad thing. Yeah. Not advisable, definitely.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, my last one was interesting because it was like it was kind of a big party. It was a moving out party, a bunch of close friends. And it was just me and one other kid who did shrooms. He's kind of on some kind of spiritual wave. I'm actually not that close with him, so I don't know. And like he took it and just went off in the woods, and I didn't see him again for a long
Oh
time.
man.
And so it was just me and a bunch of kids. Like my friends all like do coke now, so I don't really get into any of that. But it's just a very different wavelength. So I'm just like in that, like I'm just observing the life cycle of party and watching people come and go, and I'm up till like 4 or 5 a.m. um I'm just like sitting cross-legged on the couch and trying to just be with it all. And what you notice for me in that experience was like you teeter in between all the fears that come up of like, do people know I'm tripping? Am I being cool? Am I
Oh,
being
yeah.
okay? That thing I said, was that funny? Is that weird? Like all of that is
Yeah.
still there. And then it's like what I was able to tune into is just teetering back and forth between like allowing those fears to be there versus like, all right, can I just enter a state of really love? Can I just love everything that I'm seeing, feeling, everything that's arising? And that's like a meditative sort of practice, right? Where you're noticing what's there. I mean, I've talked about this before. You notice what's there and you allow it, you accept it. So it's like, oh yeah, I am a little nervous. There's that. Oh yeah, this person is being a little quirky and weird, and there's that too. We have a couple friends who are always so anxious, and we always talk about it. But
Hope it's not me, is it?
no, there's just like and we try to love them, but just nervous in parties for no reason. And it's just like I could see that so strongly. It was like I was looking at this energy. I was like an energy sponge. So like I would get nervous too, just being in the same room as them and having to constantly tell myself, oh, it's actually okay. We're actually all fine. But also loving that as like, oh, this is how they are and it's fine. And it was just a really powerful experience of like trusting in
Acceptance.
love, and it sounds cliche, but yeah, like resting in love was the safest place to be in that moment.
Yeah, I like it. I like what he said. Resting in love.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
It's
really
turned
want to try
into it's like
DMT.
DMT?
Yeah,
Did you say you wanted to do it?
yeah.
No.
I've never done it.
I'm too scared to do a lot of things.
Yeah. No,
I
understandable.
I can get to a lot of these places in my head. Like, I think my first panic attack was like for existential dread. Like, why, like, how do we exist? Like, that's really how deeply, like, that scared me when I was young. So
Damn.
then, like, the thought that some of these things, like, open your mind to that more, it's like, oh, so this is what a panic attack is. Just giving myself a panic attack.
I've always wondered what anxiety felt like.
Well, my,
There,
like,
there it is.
first therapist that I ever had was like, people pay to feel the way that you feel, right? And I was like, you mean to be like depersonalized and like feel not real? She's like, yeah, all the time. She's like, why don't you just ride with it? And that was like the first time that I'm like, oh, maybe I have a gift rather than a curse.
You have a
That's a good
gift
way
of
of
being
looking at it.
awesome, Nina. I know we're running out
Thanks.
of time, but I really want to know your opinion on this, Nina. All right. What? And it's a fucking loaded question, right? So don't blame me if you don't want to
Yeah, I'm
answer it.
excited.
It's a. So what's your take on free will?
On free will?
Yeah, it's a fucking
Light
loaded.
question at the very end.
Yeah, am I bad, dude?
By the
Like,
way,
So
just like
I know we only have 7
wait till
minutes.
next week. Free
yeah,
will.
next week,
Like,
sure.
in the sense of like, is it actually something that exists, or if we're
No,
like
what's your take on it? Is it?
programmed?
Do you think free will exists or no?
Um,
Or okay, you know what? Let me give a choice. There are like two kinds of people I spoke to, right? I think three kinds of answer. One, there is no free will because if there is no free will, it almost like it's easier to accept the mistake what other people do, but you kind of have like this inner conflict then because you feel like you do have free will, but not having free will kind of justifies or it's easier to like be with the mistakes other people make. Yeah, that's one. You feel you resonate with that? No?
um, I don't know. This is a hard one.
Yeah, we
I
should do it
think,
next week. Yeah.
yeah, but I'm leaning more towards that you do have free will, but
Yeah.
then there's that like nature piece, right? Of like things you just kind of do automatically that feels like, I don't know, I'm just like drawn to do this.
Yeah.
And if I fight against it, it's almost against, like, if you try to implement the free will, it's like fighting against that nature in you, right?
Yeah.
So are you just programmed to just do this?
I don't know. Let me know next week.
I guess
yeah, you
I'll
better have
have
an
to think
answer.
about
Just kidding.
it. Can't do that question justice in 5 minutes.
It's a tall task.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big one.
It's
I think it's an interesting
I'm sorry.
question. We've actually discussed this question before.
Really?
If you remember from like some of our first books, every time someone's like, "Is there free will?" I have this like urge to like start like just like jolting around the room, be like, well, how could be like I'm doing this on my own? Like, there's no like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not even thinking about what I'm doing, and then
Uh-huh.
like,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you know,
Then
dropping,
you like contradict it by trying to prove that it's real.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's
Here's my take on it. I feel like
definitely a start of book club question for sure.
uh, I feel like the word doesn't mean anything, you know? Yeah. Because it implies that there's a self, there's something that's not the self, and there's something else that's not the self, and now we have to make a choice. I feel like it's a perspective thing, free will.
I don't know. It's a tough one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess like for me, it's like I've always been kind of dumbfounded. It's like, what if there is or if there isn't? nothing really
You know what?
changes.
Should like every time I go on my first date, this will be the question I'll ask them. Okay, what's your name? Or what do you do again?
Oh,
Do you
geez.
think there's
Might
free
have a
will?
lot of first dates. Just kidding.
Okay, fun.
Good luck with
That's a good
that.
question.
Thanks, Ray. I'll let you know how it goes. Yeah. You have any poem,
All
Ray?
right. Oh yeah. Well, I feel bad. Rave's always tasked with the poem, and I
You
always
have any
forget to
poem
bring one.
puts?
I don't. I was saying like he's we always like Rave. You got anything for us? But like we all are actually capable of finding one.
I love
I always
honestly.
forget. It's
I
a
like
thing.
talking to Rave and all Rave because I feel like Rave pulls up. Rave has like a lot of consume on this topic, but also feel like he pulls up the right quotes at the right time. Which just enhances the discussion. discussion
True. He's in tune.
is in tune. Vibin. Yeah.
Yeah, I consume this stuff. I can pull something out. I just my interaction with Instagram is I share a poem once a week. I think we talked about this for Dallas Tuesday, so let me go find that.
Sure.
He sounds cool once a week, but when you have access to him all the time, it gets a little annoying. Okay, guys, don't get too excited about it.
Okay.
Getting a little oversaturated with Rave.
Yeah, we haven't seen each other in like what, 3 years?
How do you guys know each other?
Crazy.
Like how?
We went to elementary school together.
I've known her since she moved to town in fourth grade.
Third grade.
I thought it was fourth
It
grade.
was
Damn.
third grade.
Really? Who was your third grade teacher?
Um,
You don't know. You weren't here.
well, I haven't thought back to my third grade teacher in a really long time.
Actually,
What's
that's
her
not
name?
Nina. This is memories of Nina. Yeah. She let go of the past. She's.
I did, right? I completely let go. I didn't even go to third grade.
Pretty advanced.
The only place she did go is here. When? Now. That's it.
It's the school of life.
All right, I got one. Ready?
Nice.
10,000 flowers in the spring, the moon in autumn, a cool breeze in summer, snow in winter. If your mind is not clouded by unnecessary things, this is the best season of your life.
Ooh, that was a good one.
Yeah. Damn, that's a good one. Yeah.
Back to the unclouding.
Yeah.
True.
We got against clouds, Rave.
What'd you say?
What do you have against clouds?
Oh,
I'm just giving you a
Oh,
hard
you
time
got-
because you brought up the Ram Dass thing, like truth waits for eyes
Yeah.
unclouded, and then your poem was about unclouding. So I was like, what do you got against clouds?
yeah. Well, you just gotta realize they're clouds, otherwise you think the whole universe is gray, right? That's-
Yeah. I
True.
don't like how they
Very true.
take shapes when there's actually no shape. Yeah. I'm like,
Very
Mm.
confusing.
yeah, very confusing. Like our ego. Alright. Well,
Well,
it's nice talking
awesome
to you
discussion,
guys.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See you guys again next
Yeah.
week.
Sounds
Have a
good.
good time in Colorado, Rave.
Yeah.
I
have
will.
fun, Reeve.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Will do. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Don't
If you had
drive
like
Nina too nuts.
yeah, if you have an enlightenment experience, yeah, don't forget to write it down so that you can like read it in the book club.
I've been. I
For the
had
air-
some insights in the airport, and I texted myself, so we're
Nice,
keeping them
nice,
going.
nice.
You texted yourself.
That's what I do.
The airport. Like going out from Colorado. Like shit. It's actually getting me. Yeah, never mind. But yeah, just having some fun, Rafe. Nice talking to you guys. See you guys next week.
Yep.
Yeah, have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
See you guys.